Good afternoon, beautiful people, and welcome back. You're with Kylie in beautiful Queensland, Australia. And we're going to do 2 big totes this time by any pattern. This one, I was going to do the extra large, but then I didn't have enough material and I was waiting on more material, so that's why this one is a little bit delayed. But my material arrived and I've got everything done, so we're set to go now. I will be doing a couple of changes on this one. Specifically here, there's an inner slip pocket on the inside there. I'll be changing that to a full mesh zippered pocket on that one. We'll be doing the divided pocket here, but just on the inside here where the slip pocket is, that will be a zippered pocket. Other than that, I think it's all the same. Yep, so we're going to do the large one today. So first up, you need to get all your main and lining fabrics cut, your stabilizer cut, so the soft and stable, or like I use, which is double-sided foam. I get that from Spotlight here in Australia. I absolutely love this. I haven't had any issues with it at all. But once you have them cut, get all your quilting done, then we'll cut our pieces down to the sizes depending on the size of the bag that you're making. So here we have the bag front and the bag back. We have our back outer slip pocket and our front combo pocket. That's the back of it, and this is the combo pocket that goes on top of that one. I did go ahead and put my badge on there. I done that before I done the quilting there, so that's all nicely hidden. I thought I was going to do an extra piece of lining because I was initially going to quilt it, then put the badge on, and then just put another piece of lining over the top. But I found this way it gives a nicer finish, I think. So that's those pieces there done. We need to cut a piece for our inner divider. Upper binding, zipper strips, handles, stabilizer sleeve. Then there would be the inner slip pocket, though I'm not doing that. So I have the mesh here. I'm pretty sure I've worked out the actual size, but I'm just going to hold off cutting this at the moment just to double check when we're getting close to that point so I can redo my measurements. But I'm pretty positive I've worked out the size of what I need there. Then we have, well, now here it depends on with the bottom. Actually, I'll wait on that. I'll wait on that just a second. So next up would be our zipper tab, inner bottom bindings, outer combo pocket border, outer combo pocket binding, outer slip pocket binding, inner side bindings, then you need to cut your base, which in this particular one they're doing either vinyl, faux leather, clear vinyl. So I'm going to go back to the part I skipped. Now if you choose to do a clear vinyl over your bottom pocket, you're going to need to cut 2 pieces of what they call bottom facings, which is just 2 pieces like binding that we will sew along here, and that's just to cover the raw edges. Because it is clear, you will see the join, so we'll put that on there, and that will act as a binding along there so the joins aren't seen. But since mine is black and it's not clear, they won't be seen, so those 2 pieces aren't needed. You can also use cork if you like for the bottom there. Then we have our lining joining strip and our main joining strip. Inner divider interfacing. Then would be your inner slip pocket interfacing if you do that. Then we have our zipper strip interfacing, outer combo pocket border interfacing, our handle stabilizer, and we have our 2 zippers there. And I have another one here just because I'm doing that full zippered mesh pocket on the inside. If you stick with the pattern and you only have the 2 zippers, you'll only need 2 zip pulls. That is the only hardware that is needed in this pattern. Due to the fact that I'm putting in the extra pocket, we've got 3 zip pulls on this one. And because of the mesh pocket, I cut extra pieces. Normally when we do inner pockets, the edges of our mesh are sewn into the sides of the bag and then covered with the binding. This bag, the sides are 1 piece. Hang on a minute. I just moved all that out of the way for a second. So with this here, our main piece of our bag is going to fold around like so, and that will create the sides of the bag, as well as a piece on the bottom here is going to fold and join with the bag back, which will create the base. So it's pretty much an all-in-one, which means due to the fact that this is going to fold to create the sides, there's no seam, and I'm putting in a full mesh pocket, so I don't want the ugly edges of the cut mesh, so I just cut a couple of extra pieces to bind the edges, and that way when it's sewn in it will look lovely, I think. Well, I hope, fingers crossed. Okay, so that is it for that. So in the pattern, once you've done your quilting, you've cut your pieces down to size, then it wants you to prepare your zippers. So if you've gotten an all-in-one, you know, one of the really big long by any zippers, it's just wanting you to cut it down into the sizings that you're going to need. Then next in the pattern, after that, is we're going to prepare our base stabilizer sleeve. So on this one, on one of these short edges, we want to fold it under 1/4 inch and then under again, and we'll sew along that just to create a nice hem on that one. Then with right sides together, once we've done the one edge, only one edge, we will put the long sides together and we'll sew along here 1/2 inch and then press those sides open. There we are, beautifully sewn down. And how I get that, the easiest way I find, is I fold it over 1/2 inch and I give it a good press with the iron, and then I fold it under and hit that with the iron and then fold it over again, just like that, and sew across it. And what I did, once I done the 1/2 inch seam down the middle and pressed it open, I just took it back to the machine and I opened it out like this, because these here were a bit thick. Well, not overly thick, but I just thought, you know, putting a stabilizer in the middle, I just sewed across here again. So I just opened it like that and just went across my original stitch line and just sewed that seam there down. So with that done beautifully, we want to go to the other end. We'll just do a 1/4 inch seam across there and clip your edge. Now don't clip your stitching, not your edge, sorry, your end. Just clip off our ends. Then that way when we fold it the right way out, we don't have the end in the corner there, making it not sit down very well or poke out very well. Just make sure not to clip your stitching there. Get my little pokey stick. There we go, beautifully. And I'd just go back to the iron with that and give it another bit of a press. And then we can put our stabilizer in the middle and sit that aside for now. Next up, we'll prepare our tote base. This is for if you're using a clear vinyl or a glittered, something that is see-through. So we're going to take the 2 pieces of the bottom facing. Just grabbing one of my other pieces at the moment. We'll fold it in half, like so, and clip it all the way along our long edge there. We'll sew that down with an accurate 1/4 inch seam. We'll do that on both edges. And then when you have your 1/4 inch seam, just press it up. So the folded edge would be facing up this way, like that. With our 1/4 inch seam there, and our facing up, we'll just top stitch along there with a 1/8 seam, and that will keep it facing in the way that we want it to go. We'll do that on both edges, both long edges. Then we can sit this one aside. What I'm going to do though is I actually cut this piece, because if you're using a frayed material, something that can fray, like say canvas, we need to turn it over and fold up each long edge 1/2 inch. Give it a good press with the iron, and we'll do that on each one, top and bottom. Then we can sit it aside. So with this one, it's not frayable because it is the vinyl, but when you sew it onto your base of your bag, it's going to be put on like that, and then we just sew along the edge. That edge is then visible on the bottom. I just wanted to give this one a bit of a neat appearance. What I'm going to do on my piece is I'm going to take my double-sided tape, put it along the very edge here on the top and the bottom. I'll fold it over the 1/2 inch and push it down. The tape will hold it there. I'm going to take it to the machine. I'm going to sew 1/8 along the folded edge there, all the way along. And to me, when we turn it right side up and have a look, instead of having an edge, yes, this here will be sewn down, but you're still going to have essentially a raw edge. Though it's not frayable, you can totally leave it like that, but I don't have any of the paint that you can use on vinyl to give it a nice finished edge. So due to that, to me, by folding it over and then stitching that down, to me that's going to be a nicer edge than that. So that's just what I thought I would do. And I forgot to mention, this bag is actually going to be a birthday gift for my daughter-in-law. She doesn't know that yet, but that's who this is for. And my next video, what I'm thinking of doing is side hustle. Now, hang on. Sorry about that, lovelies. I didn't think ahead of time to have a look at it. But yeah, the next one is going to be side hustle. I just had a look at the pattern. It doesn't look to be an overly big make, so I was going to put it off. I'm expecting another grandbaby in 5 weeks now. It was 5.5. It's now 5. My lovely daughter, it's her first. She got married a bit over 12 months ago, and now they're expecting their first little bob. And she wanted me to do her a every day, every way, or every way, every day bag, which is what I made in the previous video for the bub, for a nappy bag. And she would also like me to make her the changing station one, which I have done before. I've done it with a beautiful little ladybug pattern in red and black. And she wants one of those for the bub. So I need to get in and make those two. And so I was going to do them prior to doing my next pattern for the video, but looking at that, I'll do it next because I think I can knock it out pretty quick, I'm hoping. And then I will do the other two bags it just depends on how long it does actually taking me. If it's taking me a bit longer than expected, then I'll pause it, I'll put it on hold, and I'll do the other 2 bags because I really need them done before the bub comes. That's the only thing. So yeah, hopefully the next one will be out fairly quickly. It just depends, like I said, on how involved it's going to be. But anyway, back to this. I'll get in and I'll quickly do these, then we can move on to the next part of the pattern. There we go, lovelies. All stitched down beautifully. I think that just makes it look a lot nicer than the raw edge due to the fact of me not having the edge paint. That's all. Alright, so now we can sit the base aside. And next up in the pattern we're going to need our handle stabilizer. The 4 pieces of fabric for our handles. We're just going to take 2 pieces and put their short ends together. So a 1/2 inch seam across the short edge. And we'll do that with all 4 pieces. So with 2 pieces each, we'll just sew a 1/2 inch seam, which will look like that. We'll go to the iron and just press it open, like so. Next we just want to sew down the edge of this, about 1/8 down each edge there, and that will just hold it down, so when we turn it right side out and put our stabilizer in, it will not get hung up on this, because this will be sewn, so it won't get hung up on this when you're trying to thread it through. So that will look like that there. We'll have 2 long pieces and we'll just put the long edges together all the way down and sew 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Press that seam open and then turn it right side out. So it will then look like this. Next we're just going to thread our stabilizer in. I like this stabilizer, it goes in very, very easy. There we are, all in, and we just want to have it so that the seam is in the center, like that. We'll go to our machine and just sew 1/8 all the way around. So all 4 edges, there's no tucking the ends or anything in. We'll just sew 1/8 around all 4 edges on that one. Then we'll do the same with the second one as well. There we go, lovelies. All done. Stitching is done beautifully. Next up, what we want to do is we're going to take our handles, and with the seam down, there's 2 measurements. We're going to measure from the bottom up and mark the first measurement and then the second one. We'll do that on both there, as well as on the other one here. And that's it for those, so we can sit them aside. So on to page 5, and we're going to prepare the outer combo pocket. So for this step we're going to need the outer combo pocket back, outer combo pocket front, also the border, the fusible interfacing for the border, and the outer combo pocket binding. So we'll sit that and these aside. Oh, sorry. Lastly, our zipper and our zip pull. So first up, what we're going to do is take our border and our fusible interfacing, put it on, line up all the edges, and we'll attach that with our iron. There we go, all attached. So we'll sit this and our binding and the outer pocket back just to the side for a minute, and our zip pull. Firstly, what it wants us to do is attach our zipper. So if you're using a directional fabric, make sure the zipper is on the top. We'll take that to the machine, so a generous 1/4 inch seam on there. We'll turn it to the back and stitch it down, enclosing the raw edges. There we go. I let the zipper hang over just a little bit on the edges there. Next, what we want to do is fold that down, and I always give that a good firm going over with my stiletto like this a few times. Just helps it stay down when you're sewing it. Just like that. We'll go to our machine. We want to sew along the edge of our zipper tape here, and as we do so, we're just going to poke under any of the raw edges from our pocket there and sew that down. Just be mindful that this part, our bobbin cotton, is going to show here. It's going to give us a beautiful top stitch along the top here, right along there. So just be mindful of that little bit there. That's done nicely. Please excuse those dogs barking. They're being very painful. So that come up beautifully. And I forgot to mention, be mindful of your zip pull. I forget it all the time because I put mine on last, as you guys know. So I'm not going to put that on just yet, because we're going to attach our border now. We want to grab that, and again, if it's directional fabric, make sure it's up. So we'll put it like that, and then if we test it, as you can see, that's upside down. So this is always a good way to check, to make sure prior to sewing it down that things are going to be as they should be. There we are, beautiful. So we'll go to the machine, we'll sew that down again, just like so, just like we did with the zipper onto the pocket. Once we sew it down, we'll then stitch it again, which will give us a beautiful top stitch along there as well. There we are, lovelies. All done. Come up nicely. If we haven't put our zip pull on, now's the time to do it. And as you guys know, I always show how to put one on in a video. So I get my old scissors and I cut off 2 of the teeth on an angle. Like that. Take my pull. I'll just grab my stiletto. Okay, so I put this side, the uncut side of the zip tape, into the zipper just a couple of teeth past that open part there where it goes flat. I hold it like that. A couple of teeth. Angle that one around. And then just go like that and it's on. Hold your zip tape and pull him up. Lovely. So that's done. Next we want to take our outer combo pocket back. We'll have our main fabric side up. Put the front on top. Line up all your edges around here. Then we'll just take some wonder clips, clip it all down. Go to our machine and sew it around, probably about 1/8 around all 4 edges. I usually go across where the tape is a couple of times, just there where the zip tape is. Oh, oops, I forgot to mention, once this is done, sorry about that guys, I'm dropping the ball a little bit at the moment. Once we put on our border, on the bottom of page 5, there's a measurement. We want to measure it from the top down. If it is bigger than that measurement, we just want to get it and cut the difference off down the bottom there. Don't cut it off the top, cut it off the bottom to bring it back to the size that's mentioned. Then we'll take it, place it on, line up our edges, throw a few clips on and take it to the machine and sew it down 1/8 all the way around. Nicely done. I trimmed up the zip tape even. Lastly, what we want to do on this pocket is take our piece of binding and we're just going to bind the very top of it there. And we'll fold this in half, and I always go to this side. There we go. I'll go to the machine and I will sew that with a scant 1/4 inch along the back here, and then I will flip it over and I'll sew it down to the front. That one is done and it come up beautifully. That pocket's now complete and we can set it aside. Next we want to grab our outer slip pocket and the binding for that. And we'll just bind the top of that one also. That one's complete and we can set it aside too. Now we're on to the inner slip pocket. But as you know, I'm not doing that one, I'm doing the big mesh one. But I'm still going to demonstrate that one. So you want to take your inner slip pocket. We'll fold that in half. So your piece is going to be bigger this way than it is, bigger in height than it is in width. So we want to fold it in half like so. And you can press it at the iron to give you a good crease, or just finger press it, I find is sufficient. Then we look at our piece and figure out which is your best side. So if you like one side better than the other, that's your best side. Just put a pin in it. So you know which side you chose. We'll open it out. We'll take our fusible interfacing. And we'll line it up with that line on our best side. So this is our best side, it's got the pin. We'll line it up with that line, fuse it down with the iron. Once we've done that, I'll take that away, pretend that is there. We will fold it in half, right sides together, and at our machine we want to sew down each side edge. Now it doesn't say what size, so I am assuming it would be 1/4 inch. So we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam just down each short edge there. We'll open it out. So we'll turn it in the right way with our best side up. Poke out your corners really well up here. We'll go to the machine. Sew 1/8 down the sides, across the bottom, and up the other side. When you get near the top, we're going to sew just under 1/4 inch across the top there. That will then be finished, and that can be set aside as well. Hi lovelies, apologies, this is not the correct material, but somehow I didn't get part of the inner divider recorded. I don't know how I've managed that, but I did. So what we want to do is take our inner divider fabric, put the short ends together, main fabric together, sew down our short end with a 3/8 seam. There's my seam. We want to open it out, go to the iron, press that seam open, but avoid pressing the side edges here. So just press the seam open. We want to flip it over so our seam is on the bottom. We want to take our piece of interfacing, we want to put it on and we want to line it up at, I think it's roughly about 1/4 inch from all sides. It should fit on that, on the back piece of that inner divider fabric. So we'll iron that down. Imagine that is ironed there. Once we've done that, these is our 2 long edges. Going to go to our machine. On one edge, we'll sew all the way across with a 1/4 inch seam all the way. On the other one, we're going to leave about a 3 to 4 inch gap in the middle. So we'll sew half this side and half this side. Just after we do that, we'll just clip our corners here and down here. Then we want to turn it right side out. So I'm pretty sure that's where I take off on the next section. So I'll stick this into the video now. All finished on that one. And what I did is I sewn it, when I sewed it down, I sewed it from this side so as not to sew that like that. I wanted to sew the seam open there. There's my gap. Just gonna nick off the corners here. There we go. So we're going to turn it right side out, push out our corners well, and a little trick that I do is I have this little doohad. It's just a metal chopstick, and when I push out my corners, because we want to take it to the machine and press it, so you get a really nice crisp there, and not with, when you press it, have your seam, you know, in there like that, and then you iron that down. So what I do is I take my little corner poker and I run it along the seam, typically from a corner, and I have my iron there, and as I push it out, let me see if I can zoom in a bit. As I push it out, I run along it with the iron. Then that way I get a nice crisp seam just there like that. You see? And then I run it along with the iron. Ends up like that. Instead of it being tucked in and you're not getting a nice press there. Once we do that on both edges here, just going to tuck in our little opening, iron that down as well. Now that it's all ironed beautifully, what we want to do is go to our machine. We're going to sew 1/8 down the side, across the bottom, up the other side, and then we're going to do just under 1/4 inch across the bottom, sorry guys, across the top. Next, what we want to do is flip it over so we have the seam on the top. In your book on page 7, section B, there's measurements. Now remember, the first measurement is for the small size, the brackets is for the larger size. we want to measure in. And there's our first measurement there. Then there's another measurement, so we're always measuring from the outside in, whether it be on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. So from the left hand side in, here's our second measurement here. And I used a dark colour so that you guys could see it. So that's our second measurement. There's our first one. Then from the right side, we want to do the same measurement like we did on the left side. So there's the first one, and here is the second one. Then we're going to flip it over. And there's 3 measurements on this side, but the center one here isn't an actual pleat. Okay, this is the line that we're going to sew on to attach it to the actual bag. So once again we go from the outside in to this measurement here, and then outside in, and we have that measurement there. We have the center one, of course, here. Then we have the next biggest one. Let me see. Yeah, so it is taking the bigger measurement of the 2 first, and then the smaller one, which is there. So once again, on the side with the seam, there should be 2 lines for each side, essentially, for the left and the right. 2 lines there, and 2 lines, 2 lines there. And then we'll flip it over. We have our center line, and then we just have our 2 lines there, and here, and here. There and there. Next, we want to essentially do our pleats. Now, in the book, it says to fold them, so we fold them under. So we go to our line and we fold it under, and then we do the next one down. Once we've done that for both sides, it says then to flip it over and do the measurements on this side, like so. What I find a bit easier, now you can do it that way. If it was me, like, see, I would say iron it, but when you do that, if like me you're using one of the heat removable markers, it makes it a bit harder. So because as soon as you apply heat, your marker's going to be gone. But normally what I would do is make my first fold and my second fold. I'd really give them like really good like that. You could hit it with the iron if you want, provided you know you just be really close to that line. Then I would go to my machine and I would sew the 1/8. Same as for this one. So once I had the 2 folds on each side done, I'd stick a couple of wonder clips just to hold it. And I'd take it to the machine and I'd sew my markers. Then when you flip it over, like the markers are there, but like your stitching's there, but it's not going to hinder these marks, right? To fold them. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it though. So it does recommend folding them all and then taking it to the machine and sewing them. I think know, I think it's easier this way, but either way, it doesn't matter really. So that should be correct, like that. So that, yep, that folds under there, and then it folds that way there. And these pleats, the two center pleats, should line up with that center mark, like so. And that's how you know if you've done it correct. And then you have this one like that, and this one. So you can do the pleating first and just, you know, give them a bit of a squeeze with your fingers to put the line there, or you can sew them straight away. So that's what it would look like prior to being sewn, like so. But I will go and sew them down and then show you a better visual of it so you can see. So that's your two centers, and there's your ends. I'll be right back. There we go, all beautifully done. So as you can see, there's my center line, and there's the first, and here's the other two. So when I hold it like that, that's how it should look. So just remember, on each line that we marked, always fold the piece under. So this is working from the front. You fold it under, and when you're on the back side of it, it also gets folded under. You see? And that's how you'll form your pleats. Alright, on to the next part. So now we're on to the zipper strip, or the zipper closure, which is still page 7. What we need are our two zipper strip pieces. We also need the fusible interfacing for both pieces and our zipper. So first up, what we want to do is just fuse the interfacing to the back of each piece. Then we're going to fold the pieces in half, matching the short ends together. We'll just put a crease in that with the iron on both pieces. Then we want to take our ruler, open them out right sides up, take our ruler, and where we put that crease, just rule a line down there on each one.